Whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on a rock. And the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on a rock. And every one who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be likened to a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rains descended, the flood came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it fell, and its fall was great. Matthew 7:24 through 27. David Brolier with Rock and Sand Apologetics for part two of my testimony. I should backtrack and say that at the age of 12, I also started going to the nursing home with a man from our church, and he used to take a group of us kids with him, and we would shake hands with the people at the nursing home and sing, and we just ended up brightening up their day just a little bit. And later on, I would get into the nursing home ministry, which would last into my adult life. I just thought I should add that in. As I approached my teen years, by the age of 14, I was really battling some things internally, especially, but I was also having anger issues, and also during the same time, I found out that I had epilepsy, and there was a bigger shock to my brother and my mother than it was to me, I guess. It was kind of upsetting to me. Nobody likes to know that they have some kind of weird thing going on in their life. But my brother and I were, we had a snow day off, and we were designing racers that would coast down this one hill near us. And I had just, this was January, so in December I was using a drafting kit I got for Christmas. And while I was drawing this, I went over to show him my design, and as I did, I must have had a seizure and slipped off the sofa, bit my lip, and laid on the floor, and I apparently was jerking and whatever. My brother ran out of the back room, and my mom was on the telephone, and the words out of his mouth is, "Mommy, Mommy, David's dead." Not the exact things that you want to hear, especially when you're on the phone. So her heart got a jump start. When I woke up, I had a policeman and an ambulance worker bending over me, and I'm wondering what in the world's going on. I had a headache. They covered my face with a face cloth, put me on a gurney, and rushed me out to an ambulance and sent me to the hospital. And I remember while I was in the hospital, there was a guy there from my high school who had been hit twice. Apparently he had got off the bus right by the high school and crossed in front of the bus, got hit by a car passing the bus, which knocked him into the other lane, and he got hit by a car in the other lane. And I remember that he was in that same ward, but he was in a coma. He never did come out of that coma, and I used to pray that he would be healed. And but I was released shortly after I, was in there. They did tests and stuff, and then they sent me home. And now I'm on medication for like the rest of my life. But I had questions, and my dad had answers for some of them. But my prayer life was another story. I don't know if you were like this, but you ever pray and it feels like either God's not there, or he's not listening, or he just don't care. I mean, it felt like the roof was made of brass, and my prayers were bouncing off the roof and slamming right back into me. And for me, what I was praying for were important. I mean, they may not be important to somebody else, but they were important to me. And to not get the answers, that really started to tick me off. I do remember I was telling my son just a little while ago, I had a Sunday school teacher who taught me how to understand the will of God. This is not going to sound overly spiritual, but when you break it down, it helps you get a handle on things. What he said in Sunday school was, you can't steer a ship when it's in dry dock. Told you it wasn't going to sound spiritual. But take that and apply it to your life as a Christian, right? As long as you're up in dry dock, God can't do anything with you. You have to get out in the water and let Jesus steer you. And that can be scary. But I guess I'd been long enough in dry dock, and I needed to get out in the water. And that meant I had to become dependent on someone other than myself. And I wasn't always so sure if I wanted to do that. I mean, yes, I did, but then in some ways I didn't. Also at the age of 14, God spoke to me. And I really don't care if you believe me or not, but God spoke to me and said, feed my sheep. And I think that this platform is one of the ways he's given me to do that, as well as helping the youth group at church. It's taken me like forever to figure out what he meant by that. And I had to learn to let him lead. Oh, this brings me up to about time when I got my driver's license. I was 17. Yes, I was allowed to get my driver's license because I was free of any seizures for 2 years. Even though I was on medication, I had to send in a doctor's thing every 6 months or something like that. but I still had issues in my life, and they were still not being addressed. And I about had it with God. And it may sound strange, but I've been brought up in a Christian house. I've read all the stories in the Bible. Now, why isn't God listening to what I'm saying? Why is he not answering my prayer? Doesn't he care? And I was angry. I was full of anger. And my mom, I don't know if she sensed this or not. She probably did. That's the kind of woman she was. And she turned to me and she goes, they're having a rock concert up at the high school. Why don't you go? I said, I don't want to go. My younger brother overheard it and he goes, I want to go. Well, like I said, I was the one with the driver's license. He was my younger brother. So I ended up there anyway, whether I wanted to be there or not. And I sat all the way in the back. The last possible door, so I could get out of the auditorium, out of the whole complex the fastest. I just didn't want to be there. My opinion was, God, you don't want to answer my prayer. I don't want to listen to you either. I hope you can sense the rebellion that was going on in my heart. Turns out the devil may be sitting in the front row, but Jesus is sitting in the back row. When the band started playing, everybody started to hush up. And when the soloist started singing, everyone stopped talking except for a couple girls up front. I couldn't see them, but I could hear them. And this man just stopped singing, walked away from his microphone, walked right over to where they were at, and he looked at them and he said, I'm doing the best I can for my Jesus. And you're doing the rudest thing you can to me. And they walked back over to the microphone, grabbed the microphone, turned back, but I still love you. And at that moment, it was like God was speaking to me and said, David, I've done everything for you. And you're doing the rudest thing you can to me. But I still love you. And my heart broke. At the end of that concert, I went up to the front and I rededicated my life to the Lord. I even tried to help others who came around to help counsel them. I remember one girl in particular, in tears, she was crying. So I can't accept Jesus because I want to help people, and I can't give up my life. And there's other people that were talking to her weren't really getting what she was saying, and I turned to her and I said, don't you think you could help those people better with Jesus in your life? I have no idea what her name is or what happened to her. I just pray that God worked a miracle in her life like he did mine. So after the service, I got the book Run Baby Run. I think we were also given a Reach Out New Testament, which is like the Living Bible, only it was or the Good News Bible, only it was just the New Testament. And I started reading the New Testament, and I mean reading it. I mean consuming it, and also reading Run Baby Run, the story of Nicky Cruz. If you've ever seen The Cross of the Switchblade or read the book The Cross of the Switchblade, it's the same story, only it's told from inside the gang, not outside. A beautiful, beautiful story of God's redemption. You see, now I wasn't from there, right? I was from a nice Christian family. But had I continued going where I was going, things were going to be really tough. But God met me, and God turned me around. And not only that, I was refilled with the Holy Spirit. A man in church took me under his wing and started taking me out to rap sessions and coffee house ministry. I hooked up with another friend of the family, actually, who was with his church, I guess, doing coffee house ministry in the neighboring town. And with my little guitar, I went and did my little song and testimony. And we are still in connect. He is now pastor of a church in Utah. It just shows, what happened. Here I was going to walk out on God. And God said, no. I won't force you to stay with me. But I want you to know I love you. And I tell you what, it's hard to fight against his love, because his love is beyond measure. I'm going to end part 2 here. We're going to pick it up in part 3 later. Yeah, there's a part 3 and there's a part 4. So you stay tuned. Rock and Sand Apologetics, teaching you to not only hear the word of the Lord, but apply them to your life. Have a nice day, and God bless.